If you keep waking between 3 and 4 in the morning, do not brush it off too quickly. That hour is not always random. It is not always just age. And it is not always a simple sleep issue either. Sometimes, yes, it can point to something medical that deserves attention. But many times, especially later in life, that hour carries a message, a quiet one, a stubborn one. A message about stress that never fully leaves the body, about blood sugar that does not stay steady through the night, about a nervous system that has forgotten how to settle, and about habits repeated so often they now feel normal. Most people never hear that message clearly because they are too busy being tired, too discouraged, or too used to blaming themselves. But stay with me, because what this hour may be telling you can change the way you sleep, the way you age, and the way you live through the years ahead. And the deepest part of this is not what most people expect. I have sat with many older adults who looked like they were doing everything right. They ate better. They walked every day. They took their pills on time. They tried to be disciplined. They kept appointments. They followed advice. Yet month after month, something still felt off. Not a collapse, not some dramatic emergency, just a slow slipping. Sleep became lighter, patience became shorter, memory felt a little less sharp, the legs felt heavy in the morning, joy became harder to reach. This kind of change frightens people because it steals life in small pieces while every test still looks acceptable. Then the self-blame begins. Maybe I am getting weak. Maybe I am aging faster than everyone else. Maybe this is just what happens now. Then night arrives. They fall asleep. A few hours pass, and suddenly they are awake. The room is still. The house is silent. Their heart is not pounding, but it is alert. Their mind starts moving, sometimes into worry, sometimes into regret, sometimes into no clear thought at all, just a strange, wide-awake feeling that makes no sense. They check the clock. 3:12, 3:27, 3:41, and once that pattern starts, bedtime itself begins to feel heavy. That is when fear quietly enters the evening. Here is what years of caring for older patients has taught me. Waking between 3 and 4 is not always random. In some people, stress hormones rise too early. In others, late eating, alcohol, sleep apnea, medication effects, pain, grief, loneliness, or an unsettled mind may be part of the picture. But in many people who are otherwise stable, this waking is a sign that the body has lost rhythm. And when rhythm weakens, decline often begins in a quiet way. Modern advice often breaks this into pieces. A pill for sleep, a warning about screens, a suggestion for better sleep hygiene. Sometimes useful, yes, but often incomplete, because the body is not just asking for unconsciousness. It is asking for order. It is asking for a day that prepares the night instead of sabotaging it. Many old families understood this long before sleep studies and wearable trackers. They knew that the night reveals what the day hides. It shows overload. It shows confusion. It shows a nervous system that no longer trusts the schedule it has been given. And once you understand that, everything changes. Because now the question is no longer, how do I knock myself out and stay asleep? The better question is, what did I ask my body to carry into the dark? Do not miss that, because the answer to that one question explains more than people think. The first principle is simple, but most people ignore it. Many who wake in that early hour are not being betrayed by sleep itself. They are being betrayed by what happens in the final hours before bed. I once treated a careful woman in her 70s, thoughtful and disciplined, the kind of person who did many things right. Her blood pressure was controlled. She walked every afternoon. She kept a sensible routine. But dinner happened late, usually because family visited in the evening. Then came fruit, crackers, a little chocolate, nothing wild, nothing that sounded dangerous. Yet by 3:15 every morning, she was fully awake. She feared memory loss because it ran in her family. But what I heard first was not dementia. I heard a body trying to repair itself while still digesting, still balancing glucose, still dealing with a nervous system that had never been allowed a real landing. This is where old wisdom was often smarter than modern habit. Evening was not meant to turn into endless grazing. Night was not meant for random bites, restless scrolling, late wine, and emotional leftovers from the day. The body can handle periods without food better than many people think. And when eating has boundaries, something restorative often happens. Call it metabolic rest. Call it a cleaner rhythm. Call it what you want. The principle is the same. Food should not create chaos at the edge of sleep. If you are still feeding your body when it should be shifting into repair, do not be surprised when it wakes you to finish the job. And science, slowly as always, has started catching up. Research around aging, metabolism, and circadian timing suggests that eating earlier can help insulin sensitivity, improve overnight stability, and support more settled sleep. That does not mean every person must follow one rigid formula. It means timing matters more than many people realize, especially after 60, when the body becomes less forgiving. A late meal can keep the system working when it should be recovering. Somewhere in those early morning hours, you wake not because your body is broken, but because it is busy. So here is the first practical move. For the next several nights, finish dinner at least 3 hours before bed. 4 is even better if your health allows and your doctor has not told you otherwise. Eat enough at dinner so you are not truly hungry later, but stop the little nighttime eating that sneaks in under the label of harmless. No crackers in front of the television, no healthy cereal at 10, no sweets to reward a long day, no alcohol pretending to be a sedative. If you need food for medication, follow medical instructions. That is different. I am talking about habits, not necessities. Then add one more step. Before bed, sit quietly for 5 minutes. No television, no phone, no bouncing from one thought to the next. Just stillness. Review the day. Release one tension. Name one gratitude. Let the body feel that the day is ending on purpose, not just crashing into darkness. That small shift helps more than people expect. And the second principle matters even more. The second principle is rest with structure, not just sleep. Rest. There is a difference, and after 60, the difference becomes huge. Many older adults say they rest all the time. They sit more. They nap more. They move slower, yet they feel more tired than ever. Why? Because unplanned rest does not always restore. Drifting is not the same as recovering. I knew a man in his 80s who had been steady all his life, precise, intelligent, well put together. Retirement changed his days more than he admitted. He stayed up later because there was no reason not to. Television stretched into midnight. He dozed after lunch in the chair. His routine softened until it nearly disappeared. Then the complaints began. I rest more than ever, but I wake at 3 and feel dragged through the night. Exactly. He was not resting in rhythm. He was dissolving into fragments. Human beings do not only need sleep, they need timing. The body trusts repetition. The brain relaxes when it knows what comes next. When waking time shifts, meal time shifts, light exposure shifts, and activity becomes random, the system grows less stable. Then the early morning hours become a weak point. Sleep is naturally lighter then. Sleep pressure is lower. The body is already preparing for dawn. If rhythm is weak, that transition becomes a full awakening. If rhythm is strong, many people move through it without even remembering. Stay with me here, because this is where many people get it wrong. They keep chasing deeper sleep when what they really need is a stronger day. So the work is not only at bedtime. The work begins in the morning. Wake at roughly the same time every day, even after a rough night. Get outdoor light into your eyes early if you can. Let the brain know morning has arrived. Move your body. Walk after dinner for 10 or 20 minutes. Reduce bright light in the final hour before bed. lower emotional stimulation too, and create one evening each week that feels like a reset instead of a collapse. No constant news, no endless paperwork, no screens shouting into your face, no meaningless tinkering until midnight, just a simple meal, a calmer room, a slower pace, maybe a walk, maybe a quiet talk, maybe prayer, reading, or reflection if that fits your life. The point is not perfection. The point is teaching your body that night is not a dumping ground for unfinished thoughts. It is a place of repair. That man I mentioned laughed when I first suggested something like this. It sounded old-fashioned to him. 3 weeks later, he returned and said something I have heard many times since. I did not realize how tired my mind was. That sentence matters. His 3 a.m. awakenings became less frequent. More importantly, when he did wake, the fear was gone. His heart felt calmer. His cravings improved. His mood improved. Even his digestion became steadier. This is what rhythm does. It makes the whole person less fragile. And now we come to the deepest part, the part most people feel but rarely say out loud. The third principle is this: the hour between 3 and 4 often brings unprocessed burden to the surface, not in a dramatic, mystical way, in a very human way. During the day, noise protects people from themselves. There are errands, calls, chores, messages, television, obligations, movement, and distraction. But at 3 in the morning, there is nowhere to hide. That is why this hour can feel so exposing. Grief rises there. Guilt rises there. Fear rises there. Loneliness rises there. Resentment rises there. The mind that looked fine at 2 in the afternoon suddenly feels full in the dark. I remember a woman in her late 60s who had recently lost her husband. On the outside, she was functioning. She kept going. She spoke politely. She told everyone she was managing. But every night at 3:30, she woke with a heavy sadness she could no longer outrun. No chest pain, no nightmare, just a quiet ache with nowhere to go. She had already spoken with kind and capable professionals. Yet nobody had framed it this way. Sometimes the body wakes because sorrow has not been given a place to land. That matters more than many people realize. The nervous system does not sleep deeply when the heart is still standing guard. Chronic stress, unresolved grief, persistent loneliness, and depression are all tied to fragmented sleep, early waking, more inflammation, and worse overall health. On the other side, gratitude, prayer, reflection, forgiveness, and real human connection can soften the system and improve how the night unfolds. This is not sentimental, it is practical. The body listens to the life you are living. That is why a different evening practice can change so much. Instead of falling asleep in front of a screen with all the pain untouched, create a soft place for the day to end. 1 hour before bed, turn off the television. Sit in a chair, not in bed. Use a warm lamp, not harsh light. Write down 3 things. First, what burden you are carrying tonight. Name it plainly. Second, who you need to forgive, even a little, even if the forgiveness is incomplete. Third, what you are grateful for, in spite of the pain. Not after the pain disappears, in spite of it. Then say a short prayer if prayer is part of your life, or speak a few honest sentences into the quiet if it is not. The purpose is not to erase grief. It is to give grief somewhere to go before it follows you into sleep. And if you do wake between 3 and 4, do not meet that moment like an enemy. That is where many people make the night worse. They panic. They check the time. They reach for the phone. They search symptoms. They feed the fear. Instead, if needed, sit up gently. Place a hand on your chest. Breathe slowly. Speak 1 sentence of gratitude. Speak 1 sentence of release. Keep the lights dim. Keep the room calm. Then lie back down. You are not trying to win an argument with the night. You are showing your body that waking is not an emergency, That change alone can reduce the surge of alertness that keeps people trapped awake. And here is something important that many people do not hear enough. Sleep often improves because life improves, not only because bedtime improves. The woman I mentioned earlier did not simply sleep better because she used a trick. She slept better because her evenings gained shape, her grief gained language, and her body no longer had to carry the whole burden silently into the dark. She began reconnecting with people. She found small acts of purpose again. She added structure to her week. She allowed memory, sadness, gratitude, and routine to exist in the same life without tearing her apart. This is one of the great mistakes people make about aging. They think longevity is built only from lab work, supplements, and a perfect routine. Those things can help. But long life with dignity is also built from ordered evenings, meaningful connection, moderate habits, walking, calmer meals, and a conscience that is not left bleeding in silence at 3 in the morning. The body wants safety, the mind wants order, the heart wants reconciliation. When those are ignored, the night exposes it. When they are honored, the night becomes quieter. Not always perfect, not every time, but quieter, more trustworthy, more human. And if you have made it this far, you already know this is bigger than sleep. This is about how a person ages. Chaotic aging steals dignity early. Rhythmic aging protects it. That is the difference most people never stop long enough to see. So here is the full practice in plain words. Eat earlier, walk after dinner, dim the house. Let the evening narrow instead of expanding into noise. Close the day on purpose. Before bed, forgive someone a little. Ask forgiveness where you owe it. Name one gratitude. Keep a notepad beside the bed. If you wake in that early hour, do not panic. Breathe first. No bright screens, no late-night spirals, no food unless a doctor has specifically told you to eat because of a medical condition. Tell yourself something steady and simple. I am safe. My body is speaking. I can listen without fear, then rest again. And if this waking becomes severe, very frequent, or comes with heavy snoring, gasping, chest symptoms, major sadness, or strong daytime sleepiness, speak with your doctor. Wisdom and medical care belong together, never apart. But for many people, the answer is not only in the prescription bottle. It is in the shape of the evening. It is in the timing of the meal. It is in the rhythm of the week. It is in the burdens carried quietly for too long. Once you understand that the 3 a.m. wake-up stops feeling like a curse and starts feeling like a signal. Sometimes the signal says eat earlier. Sometimes it says rebuild rhythm. Sometimes it says your heart is carrying too much alone. Whatever it says, do not ignore it, because that hour may be telling you the truth more honestly than the rest of the day ever does. The people who age with the most steadiness are not always the youngest looking. They are often the ones whose lives have shape. They keep boundaries. They eat with some restraint. They move their bodies. They rest with intention. They close the day instead of letting it leak into the night. They do not treat evening like an afterthought. They understand that how you end the day becomes part of how you live the next one. That is why some people in their 80s and 90s still feel sharp, grounded, present, and fully alive, while others begin fading much earlier than expected. Not because they are perfect, not because they escaped sorrow, not because they never had pain, but because they learned or were taught to live in rhythm instead of in chaos. And that is the invitation here. Not fear, not shame, not obsession. Respect for the body, respect for the mind, respect for the inner life that gets loud when the world finally goes quiet. If you have been waking between 3 and 4, listen carefully, adjust the evening, strengthen the day, calm the nervous system. Give your burdens language. Let the night become less of a battlefield and more of a messenger. And if this message reached you at the right time, hold on to it. One change in the evening can change the night. A different night can change the morning. And enough better mornings can quietly change the rest of a life.